Hey, I didn't even have the coffee yet, man. Too formal. We're too formal at this stuff. Hey, guys, welcome to Self-Evident Podcast. You got Massey, you got Mike, and we're your boys. We're here bringing you the best truth we can to know what is right, what is wrong. And, guys, we're teaching you to live liberated. That's the whole point, right? Living liberated is the most important thing that we need to be talking about. So we believe in Constitution. We believe in rights given from God. That's why we do the show. So, guys, if you have not yet subscribed, go to theselfevidenttruth.com. You guys can sign up for our newsletter. We're putting out content constantly. We're starting to do some vlogging and blogging and all that stuff. I don't do that stuff. They do that. This guy over here, the smarts ones, they do all that stuff. Also, guys, go to YouTube. You guys can go into pretty much every major podcast platform. Subscribe, sign up.
We got selfevidenttruth.com/podcast. Check it out.
There is a podcast wing of the website as well. It'll take you to every site we're on pretty much, and you guys can get signed up. Guys, we got some really cool stuff going on today, but real quick, if you could put up that slide for the conference, please, that'd be awesome. Guys, January 14th and 15th, we are teaming up with Revive Church. Now, what does that mean? When is the last time that we actually saw a church stand but really put their neck out on the line and say, no, we're going to do this. We're going to stand for not only God-given rights and all these other things, but we're going to show people how to do it as well. So we're teaming up with Pastor Todd Mozingo. I'm an assistant pastor there. He's our senior pastor. The church and Self-Evident are finally coming together and saying, no, we're going to do this together. So we're going to see some cool things come out this year, God willing. That's going to be awesome.
I think that's a big difference that we need to point out is a lot of times what you have is you have a church who stands for their rights against a government trying to close them, that kind of thing. But you don't often get churches that are actively trying to train people into going into government. You may say, well, you want a theocracy. No, we want our Christian brethren to be well versed in government, in the sphere of government, the culture of government, the practice of government.
That's right.
You are allowed to be a part of government.
Not only are you allowed, it's your duty. Read the Declaration of Independence. It's our right and duty to overthrow such governments that come against the rights of man. So that's why we're doing this conference. We're going to have some amazing speakers there, people running for office. And the next guest that's coming on here in a minute, we're going to be on here in a minute with him. Anthony Sabatini is going to be there speaking live to us. And I'm excited, man. I've heard him speak many times. I know what he stands for. Dude is solid, and we love that about him, and we're behind him 110%. Also, though, guys, go on to theselfevidenttruth.com. We actually have the link below here, and you guys can sign up. It's a free conference. It's a 2-day conference, and you're going to get empowered, emboldened. You're going to get shown how to run, what you can do locally for your state to stand, and that's the whole point, right? So on top of all that, guys, we need your help. Again, go to theselfevidenttruth.com. I'm constantly pointing to the site because there's so many things going on, not only for the rest of this year, but next year as well. Go on to our events page. We got some events coming up here. We're going to Broward here in a couple weeks, and just a bunch of cool things like that, as well as comment where you're from. Wherever you're from, comment and share the video. We want this to get out there as much as possible. We need the message to get out there. Hey, everybody on YouTube land, how you doing? Comment where you're from, where you're watching from, and we would love to answer all your questions. But our next guest is going to come on here if he's on. I think he's on. He put his phone down for a minute.
He said he was paying attention. Anthony, are you there?
There he is. There he is. No, he's a busy guy. And if you guys don't mind, I'm going to intro him. I'm not a fangirl or anything like that. I do respect what he stands for, but I also admire people who are unabashedly unashamed for what they believe when it's truth, right? When they do stand for the rights of man, not for the rights of government, because government doesn't have rights. They don't have anything we don't give them. That's the point, right?
Few and well-defined
Exactly.
powers.
So we'll get him on here. I'm just going to intro him quick. Anthony Sabatini serves as the member of the Florida House of Representatives, representing the 32nd District in Central Florida. 5 of his legislative bills have been signed into law by Governor DeSantis. He's filed sponsored legislation on a variety of issues, such as a crackdown on big tech. Thank you. A mandate for E-Verify, make Florida a Second Amendment sanctuary, open carry, baby. That's what we need to have because that's constitutional, right? And also recently, this man's standing for businesses to not crack down on its employees.
Yeah.
And we're going to see what's going to happen with the special session coming up. So everybody, give a warm welcome to Representative Anthony Sabatini. How you doing, boss?
Oh, we got his...
He's on.
Anthony, you there?
Is he muted on here?
Muted on the
board, buddy. On the board.
Croft, turn to the
mixer.
Board. Try it again.
Yeah, I just did. Oh boy. This isn't good. Hang on one second, sir.
You want him to sign out and come back in?
No, I mean, he was just fine before, so
Yeah.
I don't know if he's muted or what.
There we go. Can you hear us, Anthony?
Oh yeah, I see you. I hear you.
There we go. Game on.
Good morning.
All right.
I thought you
morning.
guys were censoring me. I thought this was a social media censorship ban you guys were doing on me.
We're all about big tech here.
We're trying to get in good graces with YouTube and Facebook, so really we're just going to bleep out everything you say.
Yeah, you know.
I would not be surprised. Now I'm kidding with you.
Man,
they did just try to ban me from Facebook on my Rittenhouse post.
I just saw that. I just saw it on was it Facebook or Twitter? I think I saw it on your Twitter page that they tried to ban you.
It was on Facebook, but I shared it on Twitter, and what it was just a pure, simple opinion. I just said Kyle Rittenhouse is an American hero, and of course the next day I woke up and it said this was a violation of their community standards, and that the punishment in this case was I could not do live videos or advertising on Facebook for 30 days. I thought that was shocking, which actually is pretty serious election interference, because actually I was getting ready to run an ad on Facebook concerning my congressional campaign. And now I can't. I mean, I'm fine not doing it, but I can't because of an opinion I have. It's just, we live in China. We live in Australia already. It's just crazy.
Yeah, and who would have thought, right? I mean, especially what's so crazy is you can see the narrative being controlled, the agenda, right? Because this kid has been guilty till proven innocent, right? But with the whole George Floyd case and all these other things, which obviously we know, we're not justifying death here, but it was almost like he was innocent from the beginning. It was just wrong, and it just how you're seeing the narrative shift so quickly, especially with big tech, and they know what they're doing, man. You know, it's crazy. You can post anything you want. Right, when it comes to liberal leftists. I mean, I just saw a video yesterday, bro. I don't know what you feel about this stuff, and I'm bringing it up because it's weighing on my heart heavy. That some of the academia right now are normalizing pedophilia and calling it younger sex attraction.
Saw something
just
about that.
Ridiculous, ungodly, satanic stuff that should be punished. It should not be celebrated. It should be punished severely. You know, and so how the narrative is being controlled by big tech. I'm glad you're standing up against it, man.
Well, we're doing everything we can. Florida passed a decent bill last year. I pushed hard for a much tougher bill. A bill like the state of Texas passed last month, which would classify all social media companies as what they call common carriers, which means they would be held to a much different standard, and you could regulate what they do to a much further extent. So I filed that bill again this year, and hopefully it goes through. But the one we passed last year is way too weak. I mean, case in point, got thrown up Facebook for 30 days for defending an innocent person who's literally, obviously, I think, going to win his trial. I mean, that if you watch the case, it was clear he was innocent. He was not the aggressor in any of the three instances in which he had to use his, right to self-defense. And yet I'm suspended. It's just crazy. So
I think
which didn't the guy, one of the guys that was hurt, say that? I pointed the gun at him first.
The main guy who got his bicep blown off said, I pulled my gun and pointed it at him. It's what gets me is how clear cut this case is. When all the video came out, it's like, I don't know how you can get another idea than it was complete self-defense. And even Rittenhouse, his GoFundMe page and all of that got banned, and people were getting doxxed for donating to his campaign or his fundraising. It's really this twisted narrative that kind of works its way through everything. So I appreciate
that. I think that was the biggest hole in the prosecution's case was that instance, because they said he shot this, left this Antifa guy in the bicep, but the dude was such a beta, there was no way he even had a bicep to begin with. So I just think that's totally fake news.
Gosh, good for you. So check. You got our producer over here chuckling, bro. That was awesome. Hey, so real fast, I love what you said about the bill being weak. What is it about Republicans? I'm going to be honest with you, Anthony. I actually, before Trump, the whole campaign, I quit being a Republican. Not that I'm a libertarian I'm just a constitutionalist. Do I vote Republican? Yes. Do those views align with me? Yes. It's just very hard to take on that name when you got a bunch of spineless dudes running up in government right now. Mm-hmm. When you see the liberal, they don't incrementally do things. They just go for it.
They go after it.
They go after it.
They don't
and
compromise.
They don't stop. What is it about modern Republicans that they don't seem to step out and say, you know what, we're going to take this thing back? What is it that you're seeing?
Here's the big picture with the right and the conservative movement as a whole. That's the issue. Since the 1960s, the mindset has always been, we're just going to play defense. And so when they don't have the ball, when they're not in power, they play defense a little bit better. They try to interfere and stop and be tougher towards Democrats. But when they have the ball, when they're in power, they rest in this very comfortable position of, oh, hey, defense is a winning strategy and we're defending. That's why you see Republicans sometimes when they're in power, they'll be like, oh, we're stopping the left. We're not going to let the left do this. We're not going to let the left do that. And you're thinking to yourself, but you're in charge. Like, the left's not in charge. So why are you playing defense? You should be on offense. The Democrats are smart. As soon as they get power, they run the ball down the field as hard as they possibly can. Everyone's laughing right now. Oh my God, look at the Democrats. They're going to lose all their power next year. They don't care. They know that this is their opportunity to achieve yardage, right? To use the metaphor. So they're running the ball down the field every which way they can. They absolutely know they're going to lose power next year. They do care. They're going to make solid gains. The question is, what are the Republicans going to do when they achieve power next year? And like you indicated, they're not. Why is this? It's because the average Republican has been accustomed to the strategy of the Republican Party for a long time being just pure defense. We're just gonna stand in the way of some leftist idea. Well, that's a really bad strategy. Not only has it not worked in the last 50 years, it's gotten us in a much worse position now, where if you're going to keep this country, if you're going to basically protect this country, you have to go back on offense. You have to be a counter-revolutionary force at this point and really go on offense and destroy the left. And until we really focus on primaries and start eliminating these rhinos, I don't see that happening. And that's one of the reasons I'm running, is I'm trying to bring a whole new mentality.
Right. And I think that's what was so monumental about Trump was not a defensive guy. Every other Republican candidate tends to run of, we're going to stop the left here and we're going to hold them here. And Trump went out and said, no, we're going to do this and this and this, and I'm going to get it done. And he actually tried to do that. And I think what gets perceived as just this populist wave is actually this wave of conservatives going, oh, wait, we can actually get what we want. We can actually move after it, And that's why I think candidates like you are so important, because people need to get that confidence back of, oh, we can actually go after what we want. We don't have to just bow to the progressives or just say no to the progressives. We can go for our own.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I mean, a part of being I think a good elected official is using your pulpit to activate conservatives to be more involved and hold other Republicans accountable. I think the most important thing a good Republican can do right now is hold the rhinos and hold the establishment of their own party accountable. And most great majority of Republicans do not do this. They're too afraid to do this. They don't want to be attacked by their peers. They don't want to piss off the establishment and be hated by the Republicans who are being exposed. But you have an obligation to do that, because the way I look at it is, it's not until Republicans have enormous pressure put on them will they actually do something. And then back to bring it all back to the bill that we're going to talk about, the special session bill. Once you provoke them to action, once you make them do something, they're just going to do the minimum amount that they can do. So for me, it's all about creating more pressure on the Republicans to do more and more and more and more. It's not about the left, really. It's about reforming the Republican Party right now. That's how you're going to, I think, make, get a lot more gains and get a lot more done in terms of the America First issues I care about, is by putting pressure on Republicans, not Democrats.
Yeah. It's almost a friend of mine just commented. He said, they punt the ball and then they brag that they moved it, but they punted, right? But I think the irony of it all is the word conservative. It's to conserve, to preserve. And that's where I think they miss it. Most Republicans that I've been teaching Constitution courses since like 2007. And I used to teach representatives the Constitution, like they'd never picked it up. So how are these guys even in office, not even knowing it, is the one question. They're in office, and we're pastors too. So like for me and for us, I think we talk about this a lot. It really starts with us. I believe the church is the moral compass. John Adams and Martin Luther King said it. The church is a moral compass, and we're doing the same thing in a lot of ways, playing defense instead of playing offense and saying, no, we're not allowing this. in our nation, this perversion stuff, not just with things going on behind the scenes, but law as well, right? Because that's where we need to stand. But I've been rehearsing this quote for like 3 days in my heart. Mark Twain's quote, when he said, "In the beginning of a change, a patriot scarce a man, he's hated and he's scorned." He said, "But when his cause succeeds, then the timid join him, because then it costs nothing to be a patriot." That's where I feel like when you were coming on, I'm like, I was praying about you, man. I was praying for God to protect you, protect your wife, Francesca. I was praying for your family. And dude, we're behind you 110%. I don't give a crap about 501c3s. We're endorsing you as a pastor, as a ministry. I'm telling you right now, dude, you're the guy. And one day I'll probably run too. Mike and I have talked about this. I can't know like the stuff I know and not run. But dude, you're just a shining light for us in Florida to say we can do this thing. And I'm going to tell you something, Anthony. In the Bible, God never used a majority to win his battles. So you may feel like you're alone, but you're not. I really believe you're the one waking up consciences, because we're all doing it in our own way and how we have to. But being on the forefront, bro, we're praying for protection over you, and we're behind you, man.
And somebody has to do it. Somebody has to step out, right? And people are always looking for somebody to follow. They're looking for somebody to kind of break that mold and step out into the new trail. And you're doing that. You're stepping out, and you're putting your neck on the line in a lot of ways, and you don't care, which is inspiring to a lot of people.
Really is,
because that's
dude.
what people are looking for. They're looking for courage of, no, I'm going this way, and I'll take on the risks because I believe in what I'm going after. So we appreciate that, man.
Well, I appreciate that, guys. Thanks for the kind words, and God bless you for that. But I will tell you, a lot of people say to me constantly, Sabatini, we think you're doing a great job. You're a great representative. What I always say is, I think I'm just doing a decent job. I just think so many of the other representatives are doing so bad, they make me look good.
No, I don't. But that's where you're coming in hot, though. That's where you're coming in clutch, is because you are throwing. They're not even radical ideas. They're constitutional. Right. They're foundational.
Yes, common sense.
Right.
Stuff.
Right.
But just I won't bow to the system which says,
come on, dude.
Don't put pressure on the system. Don't call out Republicans. Don't advocate for any bold idea. Just stick to the most simple, most safe messaging, whatever it be. I've disregarded all of it. And so, yeah, I mean, I've definitely, created, a support base, and that's great. But I will tell you, a lot of it's just because these other guys are so bad. Yeah. And that's my whole thing. My whole project in politics isn't just passing some single bill. It's to really do it. Trump did it to an extent, which is to raise people's expectations of what they should expect from their Republican leaders, all of their leaders, but especially the Republican leaders. Raise your expectations, because what they're doing right now, the majority of them, is just not enough.
So I completely agree. We're going to get on a couple of topics here, because I kind of want to segue into these things. One of the big issues we've been talking about for 7 years since we started this was states' rights, and how states they have their own governments, they have their own constitutions, they have their own legislatures, their own courts. And the duty of the sheriff, the power of the sheriff, and how powerful the sheriff is in a state to block unconstitutional law from the federal government. You're going into a special session here. I'm not saying you, but like the whole special session is happening on Monday. I know you're more strong than what they're presenting here on case, but what can we expect that's going on here with the special session on Monday?
Sure. So first, let me say something about the whole states' rights issue. It is far past the time in which states really need to boldly and independent of the courts reassert the 10th Amendment to the fullest extent. And that's what really it's becoming now in terms of legislation. The sole thing I'm focused on is, as my probably adversaries would characterize it, provoking a constitutional conflict with the federal government. I welcome that. I want to see that. I think the states really need to start drawing lines and finding ways to defund the federal government, because I don't see us winning unless we do that. When we do that, once the federal government realizes they cannot usurp the power of the states, that's when I think the pendulum's going to swing in this country in terms of the growth of federal power. But we're not there yet. That's what I'm really shooting for. And on the question of states as a whole, I will tell you the way I characterize it very simply for people is I say, if you know the states, the power the states were planned to have, imagined to have, and what they actually have, and you look at what they're doing today, how they're acting today, states use about 1/10 1/10 of the power they get. So DeSantis is a rock star governor. Everybody loves him. He's the best governor in the country. I always tell people, as much as you guys like DeSantis is using about 1/10 of the power that he actually has. And the legislatures I would say, are actually using even less than that. And they say, well, what do you mean? I'm like, they don't understand the state police power and what we can do. We can deport illegal immigrants independent of the federal government within the jurisdiction of our own states.
Agreed.
We can actually arrest and prosecute and just eliminate, move away any federal agent within the borders of our state that are executing and furthering any unconstitutional law. And we can do that in conformity with the U.S. Constitution. But the Republican states, put it this way, the Republican voters don't know that that's the power states have. And the Republican officials are so cowardly, they're not going to do it unless they're made to do it. And so we're in this kind of boring position where you look at blue states and they're just constantly challenging the bounds of constitutionality. They're constantly using and executing their power to the fullest extent. I mean, hell, New York almost indicted Donald Trump last summer or this summer.
Exactly.
I don't know if you remember that. They were going to extradite. I mean, that's what Democrat states do with their state power. What the Republican states do? Nothing. So shifting it back to the special session next week, I was the only guy in Florida for 90 days calling for the special session. We created a lot of pressure on the governor. The governor did the right thing, called the session, despite the fact that the entire legislature, other than me,
listen to this,
was totally against passing a private sector mandate. Now, of course, all the legislators, the Republican legislators in the state legislature are saying, oh, no, we're fine. We're with the governor. We think that, these vaccine mandates are crazy. We want to do something. The truth of the matter is they were totally against it. They didn't want to do anything.
Gosh.
And there's an article that came out in the Miami Herald today that said the legislature was pushing hard against the governor to do it. But so it literally, once again, just me and Ron DeSantis standing against the rhinos, we got a bill. Now, the bill, as you talked about in your beginning comments, I think I overheard you saying, falls far short of what we need and what I want.
Yeah, you've been public about that, though.
Very public about it. No, I mean, listen, I don't hide really anything I think about anything at any time. So as soon as the bill came out, I thought about it for about 4 hours, and then I wrote a letter to the governor. I did a press release that said, this is about 25% of what we want. I mean, it does give opt-outs. It gives some rules saying if you have religious exemptions, healthcare reasons, you shouldn't be able to get vaccinated. But at the end of the day, the bill totally misses the boat. What we need right now is a complete and total ban on any private sector, any corporate discrimination against any person, employee that is, based on their vaccination status, any whatsoever. By that, I mean, these employers should not even be able to ask their employees their vaccination status.
Yeah,
if I walk
HIPAA
in,
laws.
they need to clock in. Yep. They shouldn't say, hey, are you vaccinated? Have you gotten your booster? This and that. Oh, if not, you have to do these forms and that, and you got to go use. As one employee in Tampa now has to do. They told this woman, oh, you're not vaccinated? You got to use the bathrooms outside the building. So this is where we're at now. This is the medical apartheid that's been created. So the bill that got proposed, it makes it that you can't just flat out fire a person purely for their vaccination status. You can ask them to wear a mask, etc. But it totally leaves open the door of these woke employers to punish, change the conditions of their employment, reduce the pay, do all different things to people that are not vaccinated. And that's just completely and totally wrong. And it also doesn't give the primary penalty to the actual person who's affected. By that, I mean the person who, like, let's say they say, oh, we're not going to pay you as much, or we're not going to hire you at the get-go. Like if you walk into a business under this proposed law on Monday and they go, are you vaccinated? And you say no, they can go, okay, we're not going to hire you. That's perfectly legal under the law that they're proposing, for them not to hire you on the front end. It only has to do with protections for people who are already employed. So this whole thing is totally badly written. I'm still going to vote for it because it gets us 20% if we want. If you read the bill, about 20% of what we want is on there. But we need to automatically start shifting gears to, once again, my strategy of putting enormous pressure on the Republican establishment, the legislature, and even the governor to give us a much, much, much stronger bill. And I can go more into details if you guys want, but that's kind of like the big
No, this is good because, honestly, Anthony, I'm very, very much into limited government. The fact that I even have to prove a religious exemption made the government now an arbiter of what is religious. I think that is bullcrap. I don't need to prove religiously that I don't want a vaccination. I don't have to tell you why I believe I don't want one. That's liberty. That's crap.
That's it.
And so
That's it.
when the government now starts taking over what is religious, just like marriage and all these other things, then they can start making laws about it. Because government doesn't stop power unless we take it back. And the only thing that they're getting away with what we let them have. So what you're saying is exactly right. The whole reason that the 60s even happened was we saw, like, everybody says, that the governments haven't been involved like this. We need to do something. Does everyone remember what happened at that baker in Colorado?
Yep.
And he rejects someone and he got sued for it. $150,000, I think he had to pay twice, right? Plus, now these employers can literally tell you, because you're not getting harpooned, which, by the way, I've had many jobs. I used to be a welder for years. I never had to prove that I got the measles, mumps, and rubella shot. This is crap. This is crap, and it's unconstitutional.
Yeah. And to force people to give private information really frustrates me. This is getting into people's privacy, and this is really kind of trying to, if we start digging into people's private lives, what we end up with is everything that goes on in that person's life is now on the table. And I'm sick of seeing people becoming authoritarian, whether they're a corporation or whether they're a government, of digging into people's private lives and saying, well, you didn't get this shot in 2010, so, we can't deal with you. Well, that's my medical history. That's my medical information.
You're exactly right. And, implicit in your point is the idea of they're setting up a precedent. This is now a precedent. So now it's vaccines that employers are in charge of. Okay, how many people are vaccinated? When did you get your vaccinations? This is their new role, right? If this bill passes, what's next? Next, it's going to be, why are these employers letting these people overeat or eat unhealthy food? Now everyone's going to have to start turning their cards. Did you go eat high calorie food this week? Are you eating meat? Bill Gates said we're not supposed to be eating meat. What's going on here? These reckless employers, blah, 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 blah. It's time for state legislatures to draw a line in the sand and say, I don't care that you're the employer or the business. I mean, I'm a totally low business regulation guy. I often get accused of being libertarian because I'm so anti-government regulation. But I will tell you, the autonomy and freedom of a person to control their own body, their own health, their own mind, their own privacy is far outweighs the rights of some merchant or C-suite global woke corporate board to conform to whatever liberal norm the media thinks is the new normal, and therefore reduce the rights and autonomy of their own people, their own workers. And that's just wrong. And so it's time for the legislatures to stand up for the rights of the people.
So you said you could expand on this. I know you were very vocal even before the special the special session that's coming up about what, because I want you to empower the people. I know you're going to come and speak at our conference here coming up.
Talk a little bit about the bill.
Yeah, so I want you to talk about that, but I know you're going to come and empower us at the conference coming up in January. You're going to, I really, because what the whole thing is we want people to go run for office, those who know the Constitution, how they can do it, what it takes, whether it's school board, whatever. So we're going to be doing that, but I want you to talk about the bill and then empower the listener, because most people are like, what the heck do I do? You know what I mean? Like, how do we fight this,
Well, the biggest thing they can do is really blow up the phones, emails, and in-person meetings with their legislators, state legislators, state representatives, and state senators, that is, and the governor. Come to the rallies, come to the governor's office, blow things up, blow up social media, call out the Republicans, make them work for your vote, make them worthy. They want to hold office. They want to say that they're leaders and they're going to lead us. Make them lead us in a real way. Make them put real legislation out that's actually going to get us to a better spot, not this weak milquetoast garbage that they always constantly do. So that's it. Blowing up social media, blowing up the phones, meetings, emails on the Republicans, not the Democrats. Democrats are gone. These people are communists. Don't waste your time. They hate the country. They'll laugh.
They do hate the country. They hate the Constitution. They hate everything about America.
Yeah, they hate the country as it exists because it's based in the conception of freedom, and freedom breeds inequality. And at the end of their philosophy is, equality of outcome and radical egalitarianism, and the government must be in charge of every single decision, so that way we can create this creepy socialist world is what they want. And so we
Because
have
that
the
always
opposite
works.
form of government. Yeah, exactly. But back to the bill. So the bill right now basically has a couple major problems. One, it allows mandates, but just creates these various opt-outs. You mentioned one of them. It says, oh, you can opt out of these vaccine mandates in the private workplace, but you have to do X, Y, and Z. The bill is actually silent on the idea of the religious exemption, how they would work. So let's say Disney goes, okay, you can submit a religious exemption form, and I say, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and fill the form out. Let's say Disney goes, this looks like nonsense. This is boilerplate. You copied this online. We're gonna deny it. Hello, I mean, like, that's insane. Like, shouldn't even been allowed to begin with. So there's no
Right.
penalty for them to do that. There's nothing in the bill. Here's the other bad part about the bill. When the employer breaks the rules of the bill and actually says they're going to fire you, dock your pay, whatever, you don't get your own private cause of action. You don't get your own remedy to go and attack the employer on. It's in the hands of the AG, the Attorney General, and the DLA, the Department of Legal Affairs, which is just the name of the Attorney General's office. So what happens is you have to go file a complaint, and this Attorney General and their woke liberal lawyers in their office, which a lot of them are liberal, they will be like, maybe we'll take this case, maybe not. So you don't actually have total control on whether you can attack the employer. Then worst of all it is a $50,000 fine. I'm sorry, was it? Yeah, $50,000
It's
fine.
50,
So
10
let's
to
say
50. Yeah.
yeah, so it's like, 10,000 for a small employer, 50 for a big one. So let's say it's a big employer like Disney that just doesn't care, right? They're like, we'll just write the check right now, $1 million, good, we'll get rid of these people. So this is the problem. It's a weak bill. It doesn't actually keep these big employers accountable, and it doesn't put the power in your hands through the court system. It puts in these unaccountable bureaucrats. So the bill's got all types of issues. Now, this isn't really because DeSantis. Well, it kind of is. It kind of isn't. Like the governor wants a stronger bill. The legislature won't give it to him. The truth is, though, and this is where I'm going to put DeSantis on, on the firing line. He could say, and he could be tougher and say, "Oh, you guys don't want to give me a stronger bill? I'm going to veto all of your legislation this year. I'm going to kill all of your big government projects that you're going to try to make me sign. I'm going to make life a living hell for the legislature if it doesn't give me a stronger bill." He's not yet willing to use that power into that level of armament, but I think he does, and we need to put pressure on him to do so.
For sure. For sure. I do think. Go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was just going to ask. So people tend to see just a generalization of, well, Republicans tend to be weak. And I'd like for you to kind of expand on why are these specific Republicans not going after a stronger bill? What is in their mindset to say, yeah, this is good enough?
So two things are going on here. By that, I mean there's two groups of Republicans. Let me talk about the smaller group first. The smaller group, there's three groups of Republicans in the legislature right now. There's me, weak Republicans, and then unprincipled Republicans. It's three groups. Me and David Barrero, Miami Cuban Republican who's hardcore conservative like me. He's not as vocal as me, but he's very principled. He doesn't care about the rules. So that's one group. The other group is what you described, the weak ones. Weak in the sense that they have the right principles, but they're not willing to stand up because they know that the establishment is going to hit them in the head with a hammer and come totally against them and start attacking them, try to primary them, etc. And they're too weak to stand up. They don't want to join me. They don't want to go against a war, a war against the establishment and the system. They don't want to have to endure it, so they're not willing to do it. So that's one group. But here's the biggest group, and people often say, well, they're the weak ones. No, this isn't the weak group. This is the group that is not really weak or strong. They just don't have values whatsoever. They're the Chamber of Commerce style Republicans. So any type of like aggressive conservative bill, it's not they're like, well, we know you're right, but I just don't have the courage to stand up and do the right thing. They just don't agree with you at all. They're just straight up weak. They don't think that the government should even do anything in this case. They don't care about people's rights. They're there for a paycheck or to get a lobby job or a lapel pin or whatever. They actually are just completely valueless. Right. So like Mitt Romney isn't weak in the sense of like, oh, he's cowardly and won't stand up for what's right. He just doesn't agree with us whatsoever. He's just not conservative. Right. He's simply not American first. He's doing exactly what he believes in. He's a straight up America last, weak liberal. Straight. He loves BLM. He loves, the role of government in everyone's lives. He's a salt. That's just who he is. Weak is like a Lindsey Graham or like one of these Republicans who, in their heart, they know what conservatism is and what their base wants and what the people want, but they're just not going to stand up to do it because they don't want to have to get a black eye from the fight. Have the lobby corps and the staffers and the media and their weak Republican colleagues attacking them and lose personal power and personal prestige by fighting for the people. That's who they are. You see what I mean? So there's a group, the group that's in charge, like the Speaker of the House and the Senate President. They are straight up don't care. They just don't care about people's rights. They don't care about gun rights. They don't care about the Constitution. They don't care about the Bible. It's all fake. They're just there for power and prestige. But there is another group of people who are quietly like, hey, I agree with you guys, but I'm a coward and I don't want to have to stand up and fight.
Right.
That's it.
Yeah.
Then there's me, who, I like to think of myself as principled and, willing to show the courage to stand up. But I'm in an extreme minority because most of these guys just don't want to stand up.
Yeah, and there's biblical instances, man, and you should read the story, 1 Kings 22. You probably know it. Jehoshaphat and Ahab, they're going to war. Now, what I love about America is, and most pastors get this wrong, they always say, we're supposed to render to Caesar. They don't realize we don't have Caesars in this country. The Caesars are you and I. We elect our representatives here, so we're the kings.
They are
not them.
Yeah, that's the
right?
irony of that line.
Misquote scripture like crazy. I was reading 1 Kings, and I was telling Mike about it. Jehoshaphat and Ahab, they're going to go to war. Jehoshaphat says, man, hey, go ask the Lord about this. He's like, well, my 400 false prophets just told me I should go, but there's this one dude named Micaiah, this prophet. He's like,
always tells me
bad things. Micaiah says, don't go up to war. You're going to get destroyed. You know what he did to him? Threw him in the basement with bread and water. Didn't that happen to you just recently, Anthony? Get thrown in the basement?
So the legislative leadership doesn't have any real power over the members. So all they can do is symbolically attack you, like symbolic way, like we're going to put you on this committee versus that committee, or we're going to change. We're going to make this bill have an extra hearing. It's like these like symbolic, stupid things. And a lot of the members are so weak that they're like, I don't want to be called out, or I don't want to like suffer these symbolic attacks. So I'm just going to do whatever they tell me to do. Of course I don't. So they attacked me in these symbolic ways. So one thing they did is they moved my office one floor below to what they call the basement, which is just another floor of the building. It's literally about 25 feet from where it is now. And they're like, look, Sabatini's being punished. If you stand up against the public establishment, we'll punish you too. And it's like, all you did is move his office one floor. Like, who the hell cares? Why is that? It doesn't have any effect.
Thank you.
Over anything. But that's what, but I will tell you, that's a really example of the pettiness that animates the Republican establishment in Tallahassee. That they'll be like, oh, if you cross us, if you try to, not vote with the establishment, if you try to be more conservative and vote no on the budget and vote against pork barrel spending or whatever, we're going to move your office. Like that's their whole entire toughness. So, of course.
So when you got that memo or that letter, what was your first reaction?
Well, they're cowardly and they don't want to own it. So instead they'll release the office assignments. And then it's like, okay, you're in this office, there in that office. They don't want to own it because they're so cowardly. They won't be like, we're coming at Sabatini because he called us mean names. Because the real reason they did it is I'm on the House floor tweeting. I'm like, here's a picture of the rhino that just voted to double your taxes, or like, oh, hey, you know that the gun bills that we filed to expand gun rights in Florida, these are the rhinos that killed them all, and they get really mad. They get called out because they don't want to own their record. You think they'd be like, oh no, I think those are good gun laws. Let me defend them. No, they're mad. Right. They're getting called out, so that's why they move your office. And
hey, so my wife just texted me and said this was supposed to be a 20-minute thing, and I don't want to take up all your time.
But I went over. I have 3 more minutes, so I guess we could kind of try to bring it in for a landing. I got a minute.
Awesome. I just have one question you can answer quickly, and then I want people to know what you're doing in the future and what you're running for now. So, a dear supporter of yours, name's Brian Moriarty. He owns a business here in South Florida. He said, Representative Sabatini, is it possible to amend these bills next week during the special session, or is there no chance?
Well, you can offer amendment, but they're going to be rejected because the establishment holds the cards. The way you really get these bills amended and changed is by putting pressure on the governor and the legislature to let them know these bills are garbage and they're not good enough.
Come on.
If people go to Tallahassee with this attitude, and as Christians, as conservatives, we always are plagued with this idea of like, we're so grateful for anything you do. Thank you for giving us, one breadcrumb. Like, thank you so much. Right. The truth is you should be a little ungrateful in the realm of politics, and you
Come
should
on.
be a lot more demanding. You have
Yes,
to
sir.
have higher expectations of what you're expecting and what you're demanding these people to do. We want them to conform to real conservative behaviors and real ethical behavior, not what they're doing now. And so it's time to kind of change our hats of meekness and whatnot to a hat of extracting. We demand much better behavior from our political leadership in America at this time. So I would tell them that's what they need to do, put pressure on social media, in-person meetings, emails, phone calls to every Republican legislator in the state and the governor saying, this is not good enough. Not the attitude of like, thank you, and hopefully we do more. Not good enough.
Yeah, and we're gonna put, dude. Thank you for that. I appreciate you. You'll come on again.
Which is an act of love, by the way. It's not a mean act. It's an act of love. We love this country.
Love is truth, man.
We love our leaders, but we demand them to do better.
So real fast. I respect that you called out DeSantis. That proves that you're not a party guy. You're a principle first guy. I love that you stand for the rights of all Americans, not just in Florida. We want to know what's next. A friend of mine, JD, he just said, where can we donate? So we want you to kind of end out with that. And dude, I so respect you. We'd love to have you on again, but I can't wait to see you.
Can't wait to see you
in January at the conference.
Yeah, I can't wait to come down. SabatiniForCongress.com is the website, Sabatini for Congress. And then, of course, I'm on every social media platform, as most people, I think, in the state of Florida know. So Getter, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Signal, Telegram, LinkedIn. I think that's everything. So I'm on everything. Check me out. Of course, you could always just call me if you ever need anything serious. 352-455-2928. That's my cell. Just feel free to text me. I'm a millennial. I text a lot more than I call. So
there we go.
Text me. Thank you guys for having me on. I'll see you in January.
Thanks, brother.
Thank you so much.
Thanks again,
Appreciate
man.
it.
Talk to you soon.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
So there's a lot to unpack with what we were just talking about, right? Talking about states' rights. What I loved was that he was willing to say, I got to call this out. We were actually banned for that when I was like calling out Trump for different things.
Yeah.
It's like, look, they're conservative. They're conservative, but they're not doing everything right. And if we're not putting a demand on our representatives, if we're not putting a demand on our president, if we're not putting a demand on our governors, we're not putting a demand, we're not doing our job. We're getting mad that they're not doing theirs. We're not doing ours.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that happens with all of this is we get starry-eyed almost. We're just like, well, they're doing what they're doing and they're our leaders and they know what's going on. No, they don't. And we heard him say of a lot of these people just don't have principle. They're in it for the power. They're in it for the direction, the career. They want to get more votes. And one thing I was thinking about was this whole concept of they want votes. They want to know that the people want to put them back in office because a lot of these guys make a career out of it.
He said it perfect. Dude.
So you have to connect and realize that the more contact you have with them and saying, you're not making me happy, you're not being tough on this, you're not being strong, you're not being principled. If they hear that all the time, they go, oh, wait, in order for me to get back into office, I have to do what the people want me to do, which means the problem is so many people don't contact these people. So if they get 5 phone calls that say the same thing of you're not doing enough, you're not doing it, they start to question, okay, am I actually, do I need to do something? And you have to keep an eye out for these guys like Sabatini to where they're principled and they're standing no matter what. You got to stop just voting for the R. And that's why you pay attention to the primaries. You pay attention to this field of people who you may get that guy who says, now I'm going to do what I'm going to do because that's the principled way to go about it.
It's so funny because I don't even think he sees that he's very prophetic. He's very much, and a prophet just stands on the principle. He stands on the word, doesn't veer outside of it, hears and knows what's going on discernment wise. And you can tell, like, when we're talking this way, it's like, I think it empowers him and it emboldens him. And those are the kind of guys that'll make you mad because they'll point you out, but they're your best friends.
Yeah.
They're your best friends because those are the guys that are willing to say, it doesn't matter about career. It doesn't matter about this. He loves his family. He loves his country. He loves his God. He's also, he's in the National Guard as well. I mean, just, you
captain
see
in the National Guard, right?
Yes. You see men that are willing to take it and take it hard. You know what I mean? And go for it. But not only that, to tell us, demand of me what you need me to do. That is a representative.
And one thing that you just clicked me on is Proverbs. What is it? Better are the wounds of a friend than the kiss of an enemy.
Faithful,
you know, and we have to remember that he's willing to call out DeSantis. So don't get mad at him because he's willing to say, look, you're not doing enough. You're not standing hard enough on this. Don't get mad at him.
I respect that
Support
so
him,
much.
encourage him.
I
Because
respect that.
all of us, we're happy with DeSantis, but man, we got to keep each other's feet to the fire. We got to continue to keep each other principled. That's what Christians do for their brothers, right? The scripture tells you to help your brother along. You're supposed to come alongside and say, hey, let's go back this way a little bit. The problem is we completely misconstrue judge not lest ye be judged. I can't tell my brother what to do. I can't point anything out. I can't come alongside and correct. It's your job. It's your job to come alongside your brothers and say, look, this is the principal direction.
Yeah.
I think you're getting off a little bit.
Yeah.
Let's come back this way.
And not being a jerk about it,
No.
not being a douchebag about it, but like being honest and being full of heart. I care about this country. I care about its people. I care about its foundation. I care about many things. Again, are there many things we corrected? Yeah, we needed to correct a lot of things, but to give government more power was not something we needed to correct. We needed government out of people's businesses. That's exactly the reason the Declaration was written. So you're right. I think that when you stand for truth and when you stand for these things, you love your neighbor as yourself. You want them to be. Real love is wanting you to be personally responsible. That's real love.
A high expectation.
Yes. I want get around kids. When you set the bar high, guess what they meet? That bar, because you keep putting it up there. And once they succeed, they want a higher bar. And we need to keep holding our officials that way. They always want higher because they're going to want that vote. You see what I'm saying? But if you stay silent, they're going to keep doing what they're doing.
You know what the biggest sense of apathy is? Which apathy is even worse than hatred, because apathy is, I don't even care.
You don't even have an emotion to it.
I don't care about you so much that I have no emotion about you. But you actually have an apathy towards somebody if you have a low standard, low expectation of them. It's like, I don't care what happens to you. I really don't. At least hatred or anger or frustration towards somebody, at least it's like, I'm very mad at you because this should be different. You should hold a different standard. That's why standards are so important. And we insult people when we don't hold them to a high standard. When we put in a guy like Mitch McConnell decade after decade after decade, because, well, he's a Republican.
Yeah.
That you're insulting yourself and you're insulting everybody else by saying, well, he's an R, so that's the best I can do.
And it's really crazy. Mike Darnell just said this: remove the log from your own eye to help your brother with the speck in his doesn't mean you don't do it. Fix it yourself and go help others. And that's thank you, Mike, for that comment. I appreciate that 100%. That is exactly right.
Mm-hmm.
It is us removing. We did remove the log from our eye. We did see the gross error of our ways. We did see we weren't holding politicians accountable. We did see we weren't personally responsible. We did see we submitted to a government. We did see we forsook God and government when he creates law. We see that. So now we're telling other people and our representatives, you're not God. Quit it. And now's the time that you work for the people and you submit to that thing you call the Constitution. Your state one too. I didn't even ask Sabatini about the emergency powers. We'll do a separate thing on that.
But what I did love that he said was he talked about states are only using 1/10 of their power, and that's something people do not realize. People think when we did the whole Psaki segment, well, federal government's more powerful than the state. No, we have to get this through our head one way or another. We've got to get it through our head that the states have a lot more power than they realize.
Exactly.
And when they start understanding that and they say, well, the federal government can't just come in and run roughshod over us, you start to pay attention to your state legislature and your governor a lot more. You start to understand more how powerful those people actually can be in the fight against the federal government. Because guess what? The federal government will always encroach on your freedoms. They want power. And this isn't a wicked, there's wickedness involved, but hear me out. This isn't a wicked Illuminati agenda. It's just people being people. They get some power. They want more power. They want more power. They want more power. They want more control. Authoritarians want more control. Why? Because they tell themselves, if I have more control, then things will be utopia. How often do we sit in our chair and we go, well, if the world would just listen to me, everything would be utopia? That's those people acting it out.
Exactly.
So you have to have a state government that is strong enough to say, no, You do what you're supposed to do, which the federal government's original power, few and well-defined powers, they were supposed to look outwards.
Come
the
on.
states were supposed to handle the interior affairs of day to day. Your
That's right.
states need to get back to that. And I'm telling you, you've got to look for candidates who are actually going to uphold that process.
Like this guy.
Instead of saying, federal government, do what you need to do. You're taking my funding. I'm so sorry. Let me bow deeper. Take it.
So here's what's crazy.
Take it away. Give me back my money. Stop trying to use my money to blackmail me.
This is where I want people to understand, because we're going to wrap it up. I want people to understand something. When we were in California, they were like, man, you guys got a great state. Oh my gosh, I wish I could move to Florida. Representative Sabatini just admitted that it's him against the world and another guy from Miami and DeSantis. There's three that are holding the stopworks right now, right? The rhinos ain't doing much. This is why we can't sleep. This is why we can't sleep. This is why, listen, Christian, this is why you cannot sleep when the world is going to hell in a handbasket. This is why the gospel is so important to preach. You can't sleep. You can't say, William Wilberforce once said this: you may choose to look the other way, but you can never say you were never told. You may choose to look the other way, but you can never say you were never told. And the thing is, with the Christian, we have to not only be the gospel presenters, but show what God did for law and how he created it. It's up to us, guys, right? Listen, to the Church of America, we love you. We love you. Some of you don't know what to do. Now's the time to stand up, mighty man of valor. Now's the time to take on what God has given you. You know it. Now's the time to stand. For those of you that don't know and that are ignorant, it's okay. You can learn this stuff. Our pastor did. And guess what? He's speaking at our conference to empower the people to go make change in Washington, to go make change in Florida, to go make change in your school boards, in your city and county officials. He's empowered. The pastor is getting up to empower the people to say, Christian, go get it. Pastor, stand up and go get it. You can do this thing. I'm not here to call you a coward. None of us are. We're not here to say cowards. You haven't done anything. That line of thinking is far gone. Now's the time to stand, and you can do this. The God of heaven is with you. One thing I love about him is that he feels like, man, I'm alone. No, you're not. No, you're not. The people are with you, man. Now we just got to remove the rhinos and get the right people in there so we can take over his spot when he goes and runs for federal.
And a perfect example of that is, so he's the type that'll say, I'm kind of alone, or not the type, but he may say, I'm alone. I'm alone on this. Except we have him on the podcast and we endorse. We're fully supportive. Yeah. And then we have people who are fully supportive of us, right? So those people are not just supportive of us, they're supportive of him. Do you see that sometimes you're a couple of steps removed from your support, but it doesn't mean those people aren't there. Just because it's just like the Lord. Just because you're not sensing him right there all the time doesn't mean that he's not there. You have other people that think like you do, that see it like you do, that have principles like you do, that want to move forward like you do. And sometimes you got to take that step of faith without the support in order to understand that you had the support the whole time.
In the first
place,
Sometimes
God will be silent until you make that step. Then he'll start talking because he's like, okay, now we're on the road. Now we're on the path.
And you know what? Guys, listen closely. This is our message. It's God moves in the impossible. And I had conversations yesterday, the day before. Oh my gosh, it's crazy. It's global. So was Babel, and God destroyed it. So was World War II, and guess who intervened? So was the King of England. It was a global takeover. Dude had 13.5 million square miles, owned pretty much all of Eastern area, the Eastern world, had it all, including the Americas. And God saw fit to win for us. Don't think you can't. God is in the impossible. Now's the time to call on him. This is impossible, Lord. There's no way. And I know he's up there saying, yep.
And this hit me for this. If you have a hard time wrapping your head around, let's at least get pragmatic about this. When you stand before the Lord, would you rather say, Lord, I fought with everything I had and I had all the faith I could muster. I failed, but I did
run
what
my
I could.
race.
I ran my race.
I kept the faith.
Or would you rather stand before the Lord and say, well, everything was falling apart. My fear was overtaking. And, I held my head down and I tried to eke out my days a couple more. I tried to get a couple more days out of this. Which would you rather do in front of the Lord? I would rather 5 more days of full, intense fighting, standing with everything I have, with all the faith that I can muster, than 50 years of on my knees, my head down low, trying to just stay silent, trying to hope that they don't come in, that they don't come through those doors, that these walls will protect me for one more day. Do you ever have that where, like, something's about to come down on you and you're waiting? And it's not enjoyable. You get no enjoyment out of life when you're in that position, especially if you've done wrong or you committed a sin and you're just like, this is going to get found out. Just for example's sake, you cheat on your wife and you're trying to hide it. And you try to hide it. Life has no taste. There's nothing to it. Life is just one moment to the next wondering, when am I going to get found out? When is this all going to come crashing down?
That's right, man.
The worry, the anxiety, the fear. Stop living in fear, guys. I say this as encouragement and conviction, is stop living in the fear of, I hope they don't come. I know they're coming. I know it's going to crash. It's all going to happen to me. I just hope I've got enough to eke out my days. Instead, step forth in faith and say, you know what? Yeah, this is a real problem. All this may come crashing down, but I'm going to do my best to try and hold it up for as long as I can. I'm going to at least step out in faith. And then if I fall or I fail, at least I know I did it with honor and dignity.
That's right.
There's so much more to standing with faithfulness than with success of what? A couple extra days?
I think God is doing us a favor. I think when people for years have been praying for revival in this country, first step before revival, when revival happens, he exposes wickedness. That's what he's doing right now.
Yeah.
He is doing us a favor. He is showing us right now what is wrong so that we can go in there and say, no, Lord, we need to correct this. It is supposed to be impossible. Faith does not mean it's something that is possible. It's the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen, which is impossible. That is faith, okay? So when we're saying keep the faith, Paul said, I've run my race, I've kept the faith. Everything the dude did was impossible. Standing before in Acts 17, when he's saying, what's the unknown God? And he goes out and tells them, in the midst of all their gods, in the midst of all their lies, in the midst of all these things that they were doing and the perversion that was happening, he went first to the synagogues, then the marketplace. And then he said, I'm going to talk about that God, the one that says it's unknown. I'm going to tell you about him. God who created all things, the heavens and the earth. God who sent his son to die. He did the impossible. He went right to the kings, man. Like this is what empowers me. It's like, look, Paul was no better than me or you. He was just a normal guy. This is why I keep saying that Virginia didn't win because of Republicans. It was the church. I'm telling you, it's the church. The church is you, not the building. Quit complaining about what you're not seeing and be the thing that you want to see.
And
be the thing that you want to see.
And that's what we're going to be talking about next week. We're going to be getting into this of, we are so tired of the church getting knocked down, beat down, cowards, losers, weak. We're sick of all this talk about the church because this is the bride of Christ that you're talking about.
Come on, dude.
If you're a man, how would you feel if somebody was talking in that way about your wife?
Oh, come on, dude.
Right?
That's it. And that's it. We're supposed to admonish the bride, dude.
And so next week, we're going to get into this. We're going to get into this whole thing about the American church and how do you accurately look at the American church? Because I am so tired of, well, the American church is this. The American church is that.
Okay. Yeah. No. You're good. You're good. And I want to save that because I know we'll get into the weeds here.
We'll get into it next week.
On YouTube, on Facebook, on any other platform that we're on right now, theselfevidenttruth.com. If you're on, go to that link. That's below. I just posted it on YouTube and you can post it, or it's already posted on Instagram. I'm sorry, on Facebook. The conference that's coming up where Anthony Sabatini is speaking, we want you to sign up for it. It's a free conference. We're going to empower the patriot and the Christian to take a stand and to go run for public office. That is the point. It's not just us giving you information anymore. It's telling us what's the next step for us to do. We're going to empower you how to make phone calls, how to do these things. where you can take the ball and run. And again, if it seems impossible to you, you're probably the one that's supposed to do it. Okay? Go sign up right now. The link is down below. I just pinned it, actually. It's up at the top. On YouTube, go find it. TheSelfEvidentTruth.com. Sign up. It's free. You want to be a part of this January 14th and 15th of 2022. It's me, Mike. Pastor Todd's going to be speaking there about the biblical role of government. Come on, man. A pastor. Yeah. I'm empowered. I'm encouraged. What I'm seeing is not what they're saying. I'm seeing God move in churches right now. And guess what? We're the church. So he's moving in us first, right? And then Representative Anthony Sabatini's coming. Gloria Tucker's coming. She's from Jupiter. She's running for town council. Amy Pritchett running for school board is going to be there. Mike DeTerlizzi, who's on a school board right now, is going to teach us what? Melissa Mars is coming. Darlene Swaffer's coming. So we have all these. Who else? Am I missing somebody? I'm missing somebody.
Don't think so.
I'm missing one person.
Maybe.
I think I'm missing somebody, but I'm missing someone.
We'll pull him in.
Oh, Jenna Haig.
How could we forget
She's
Jenna?
She's running for state rep. That girl's on fire. She's principled. She's solid. You're going to want to hear from these people and get empowered. Go to TheSelfEvidentTruth.com and sign up for this conference. Be a part of the solution, not a part of the problem. Quit complaining. Quit coming in the night and saying, oh my gosh, I agree with you, but I don't know what to do. Now's the time. Quit being Nicodemuses and get in the fight. And this is why we do what we do here, okay? It's not just to give you information. It's to empower you not only to be a Christian, but to be a patriot. And people will say that's idolatrous. No, it's not, because God establishes law. I could understand if I was a Republican and telling you to be a Republican. I'm telling you to be a Christian. And stand up against the wickedness and be ready, the Bible says, to revenge all forms of disobedience when you begin your obedience. That's what the Word of God says. Revenge all forms of disobedience when your obedience is fulfilled. That's a Christian.
Amen.
Okay? So, again, go to TheSelfEvidentTruth.com. Find out more information about what we got going on. Subscribe to the podcast. We got some really cool things coming out, guys. If you want to be a sponsor and a supporter of us, go online. Everything's on the website now. We're really excited. Guys, we love you so much. Tune in next week. Saturday, we're going to be doing another live podcast. We're stoked, man.
Game on. So until then, guys, we will see you Saturday, 9 a.m. I hope you have a great week. Love you guys.